All right, our next assignment in Google Sheets is the numbers might be a little out of order. This says Google Sheets number 8, and the previous one I don't know. I don't really remember. To tell you the truth, it might have been I don't know. I don't know. The iLearn schedule is kind of altering this order of the assignments, but it doesn't really matter to you guys. So anyway, don't worry if the numbers are out of order. Don't sweat it. All right. So what we're going to do today is we're going to work on building a bar or a column chart, and I'm going to walk you through it and show you what to do. This handout that you're seeing right now will be posted on Google Classroom. It's not at the time I'm recording this movie. So there will be a link for a sheet that you need, and you'll click that link, and it will make a copy for you, and you'll be ready to go to work. Let's see, and I've got all the things that you're going to be doing to that sheet right here. You will have to format the data that's on the sheet at least a little bit. I'll show you, ideas on that. And then we're going to insert the chart that we're going to build today. We're kind of in a little series of things where we build charts. That's kind of what we're doing. And this one's going to have to be either a column or a bar chart. I'll show you the difference. It's not a big difference, but I'll show it to you in a minute. And there are 2 required customizations on this list that you're looking at right now. Number 6 and number 7 are required. Any other customizations you make to the chart are your choice. It's really kind of up to you. But you have to do these 2 things. You have to create a title on the chart that has something to do with birthdays. You'll see what I mean in just a minute. And you also have to change the colors of the bars or the columns to meet the requirements. Those are required items. If you don't do them, you're losing points. And if you create the wrong kind of chart, if you don't do a column or a bar chart today, you'll lose points there as well. That's a required thing. And if you don't format the data on the sheet a little bit, you'll lose points there. You got to make sure you're on target, staying on top of everything that is supposed to be done. All right, so let's hop over here and look at, that is not it, but this is. All right, so here's what I've done, and I'm going to zoom up on this some. I'm just going to make it bigger so you can see it better, and we should be ready to roll. This is all about birthdays. And what I did for my period 1 class, I went to Power School and I looked up when everybody's birthday, what month it falls in. And you can see all the months of the year abbreviated right across here. And then so I did a little digging, and I found out, like in first period, there are 3 people that have a January birthday, and there are 2 people that have a February birthday, and 0 March and 0 April. And it works just all, same way all the way down. 6 people with a December birthday in period 1. Here on the next row down, you've got period 7, same idea. There's 1 person who has a January birthday in period 7, and then 4 in February, and 4 in March, 5 in April, and on down, on down, on down. The only month in 7th hour that didn't have any was June, and then we had our zeros on March and April in period 1 up here. So that's how it all turned out. Right? That's how birthdays distributed in my 1st hour and my 7th hour class. So your first job here is just to format the data, and I think we've run into this before. You could do format and alternating colors if you want to. You don't have to do that, but you could. I think I will. I'm going to use this green setup right here, but you could customize it. I think we've talked about this in previous assignments using the alternating colors trick. You don't have to use it if you don't want to, but you can. And I'm going to go ahead and click done here. And so I've got some color added to my data, which I like. While I've got it selected, I'm going to go ahead and change the font. And I'll change, I'm just doing some formatting things that I like. And this is where you're going to do the things that you like. But I do want you to format it some. It needs to look different than it did when you opened it up. Don't leave it all just the all default stuff. All right, change it up. I'm even going to change at least like the font and the size of those things up there, those little labels up there to match the rest of the sheet. All right, so there we go. That part's done. Yay. Now, one of the things I hope you're picking up when it comes time to build a chart, you gotta build it based on some numbers. Like if I were to click like right here, just put my cell pointer right here, and go insert chart, my chart would show nothing. Excuse me, because this cell is empty. There's not, and that's the only cell that's selected right now. Charts are always based on what you have. Excuse me, gotta get a drink. Charts are always based on what you have selected at the time. So we're going to want to select A5 right here and everything else on here. Like I'm going to drag from A5 over here to M7 and get all of that selected, just like that. And that's important. You got to have the right data selected before you go to build your chart. Okay, now it's time. So I'm going to go to the insert menu. And there's other ways to do this. Again, you might have found, well, there's other buttons that can help you do that. And you're right, there are. I'm going to go to insert chart. Now, Google Sheets is always going to try and guess what you wanted. And this time it guessed that I wanted a line chart, but that's not what I want. That is not what I want at all. All right, so anytime you insert a chart, you're going to get this chart editor over here on the right-hand side. And I think we've covered this, but there are two like sections to the chart editor. There's setup and there's customize. So on the setup section, chart type says line chart, and that's not what we want. So I'm going to drop this down, and let me scroll this just a little bit here. And I'm looking for, okay, here are the stars of the show for the day. Column or bar. Either one of these is okay, and if you'll look at those little like diagrams here, you can tell the difference. On a column chart, the baseline is on the bottom, and the numbers are represented going up. The more numbers you have, the higher the column's going to be. And on a bar chart, the baseline is on the left-hand side, and the bars go across to the right. And the bigger number you have, the farther to the right it's going to go. And I don't care which kind of those you use. You've got a basic column and a basic bar chart here in the first spot. In the middle spot, you've got what's called a stacked column and a stacked bar, and you can use those if you want to. It just stacks the data on top of each other. Some people don't really get them. They don't understand them quite so well. If you don't want to use them, you don't have to. And the other one is a 100% stacked column, which again, for some people is kind of confusing. There's a 100% stacked bar. And if you think, well, I don't understand what that's even saying, then you don't have to use it if you don't want to. You've got your choice of 6 different things here today, so you can make your own decision. I'm just going to use a standard column chart on mine for right now, so I'll click that. And the basics are done here. The chart is built. All right, cool. That's great. Now it's time to do some customizations, and I'm going to remind you that there are 2 customizations that must be made to get all the points today. So I'm going to go over here to customize, and I'll flip back real quickly to that handout and remind you here that one of them is changing the chart title so that it has something to do with birthdays. If I look at it right now, the chart title just says period 1 and period 7. It's up in the top left-hand corner. And that's, I mean, it's not a terrible title, but it's not what I want. All right, so I'm going to drop down this little arrow by chart and axis titles. For the chart title, this says period 1 and period 7. Nope, don't want that. Here's what I'm going to put for mine. Yours does not have to match exactly. I'm just going to say BIT class birthdays. Sounds good to me. But just get the idea of birthdays in there. That's what you got to do. Now you've got an option here with there's a few fonts that you could use. There's not a ton, but there are some fonts that you can use. I like Verdana pretty well, and I'm going to make it bold. And I think I am going to make it a little bit bigger. Yeah, that's slightly bigger. And I think I want mine centered, and I also think I want mine to be a gold color. All right. So I did several things to the title font there. I centered it, and I changed the font, and I made it size 24, and I made it bold, and I changed its color. All right, but the big thing you got to do is change the title. That's the big thing. All right, so now I'm going to scroll this back up just a little bit, and where it says chart and axis titles, I'll close that back up. Now, the next thing that you have to do, and again, I'll show you on the handout, it says you have to change the colors of the bars or the columns. That's required today. Right now, they're red and blue. I don't have anything against red and blue, but this is an assignment where I want you to prove to me that you can get in there and change the color of those bars. So here's what we're going to do. That's going to be located on the section that says Series. Point to it right now. So I'm going to open that up. To begin with, this says Apply to All Series. That's not where we're going to find what we want. So I'm going to click here where it says Apply to All Series, and now I'm finding what I want. I want to be able to work on these two kind of individually so that I can set them the way I want to set them. So I'll click on Period 1. Right below here, I get a fill color and a line color. All right, well, I kind of like adding a line color. You wouldn't even have to do that, really. The thing I really want you to add, or to change, is the fill color. All right, well, I am going to use my gold color that I used on the title right there. I'm going to make a gold bar for Period 1. There's other things you could play with: fill opacity, line thickness. If I bump that up a little, I don't think that really bumped up any. Boom, now it did. So I changed the line thickness, and there's different kinds of lines. And so there's all kinds of things that you could tinker with, but what you really have to do is change its fill color. All right, now, so that takes care of Period 1, but I didn't do anything with Period 7 yet. So what I'm going to do now is right here where it says, I scroll up a little bit, and under Series where it says Period 1, I'll click there, and I want to go to Period 7 and do the same kinds of things there. So again, I like having a line around my bar, but that is, again, your call. I'm going to use kind of a deep green color for this one. I think I'm going to go to that 4-point line thickness like I did before. And that is starting to look pretty happy to me. I like it. Now, here's one last thing I'm going to do. And actually, I have now taken care of all of the required customizations. I've changed the title, and I've changed the color of my columns. But I'm going to show you a couple of other things. I'm going to click back where it says Period 7 right here, and I'm going to go to Apply to All Slides. When it said Apply to All Series, sorry, I was thinking sheets there for a second. Apply to All Series, I'm going to scroll this down, and when you have it set on Apply to All Series, if you scroll down just a little bit, you'll see this thing for data labels, and I'm going to check mark it. I like it because it puts the exact actual number right on every bar, and you can see them on there. I like the way that looks. That's just me, but I like it. All right, so I'm done with that. Boom. And I might come up here to Chart Style. I'm just kind of scrolling up and down on these customized sections here. And I might come up here to Chart Style, and I'm going to throw on a background color, and I'm going to throw on a border. The borders aren't very thick. They don't show up a ton. And I'm also going to make this 3D just for kicks and giggles. It adds a little three-dimensional nature to the columns that are on there. So you could do that kind of thing if you want to. That is not a required customization at all, but you could do it. All right, so I think I'll close that up. And there are other things that you could play around with in there. You could play around with the legend. The legend is this thing right here. This is Period 1 and has a little gold box, and a Period 7 and a green box. So that could be on the left or the right or the bottom, or you could make it, there's an option for none. You don't even have to have a legend if you don't want. But this is starting to look pretty good, right? Now I'm going to go ahead and close the chart editor here, and I'm going to zoom back on this just a smidge so I can show you something else. This chart right now is kind of like a floating object that I could just move around. I could put it over here if I wanted, if I think that looks good, or I could tuck it in down here if I think that looks good. But I want to show you another option that you have. And again, I said option, right? You know what option means? It means you don't have to do it, but it's an option. I'm going to zoom back up on this. In the top right corner of the chart itself, there's a little 3-dot menu right here. Point to it right now. And if I click that, there are several things you could do here. But one is move to own sheet. Now, right now, the chart is, like I said, it's a floating object on the same page as the actual data. You see my numbers that I have in green there that we started with. But I build a chart that goes along with those numbers. But I could move this chart to its own page by clicking the little 3 dots and then do move to own sheet. And you don't have to do it if you don't want to, but here's what it looks like. If I click it, I get a bigger copy of the chart. It's larger, it's bigger. I can maybe see it better. I don't know. And down here on the bottom left where it says sheet 1, that takes me back to where the numbers were. That's just the plain old numbers. And then over here where it says chart 2, and don't worry about saying 2, yours will probably say chart 1. Where it says chart 2, there's my chart, right? So reviewing everything that we did, there's no formula writing on this one. All you have to do is take the data that I gave you and you have to format it a little bit. So I showed you that. Then you got to actually build either the bar or the column chart. And on your bar or column chart, you have to work with the title. You got to make sure that you customize the title. And you have to change the color. Those are going to be red and blue by default, and that's what I want you to change. Don't leave them red and blue. Make them something else. You could move it to its own sheet if you want to, but you don't have to. It's your call. Well, I believe that's it. I think we're ready to go.